Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we are taking a look at the September releases coming from Warcradle Studios for Dystopian Wars. This month sees not just one, but two major releases for both the Sultanate and for the Imperium. It's been a while since we saw something for the Imperium as well. And of course, as was to be expected, the John Henry bot, along with all the other things found on the Vanguard squadrons, are now available for any Union players as well, if you wanted to flesh out that Independence Battle Fleet set you got last month. The first big release is the Abydos Battle Fleet set, which means that the Egyptians are joining the fray in Dystopian Wars. And this is a nice big box with 4 different plastic sprues, it seems, from the Egyptians. I imagine these will be Egyptian frontline sprues later down the line. And that massive Mass 4 Abydos flagship in the center that can actually be built as a few other options as well. Other than that, another welcome addition is 2 portals that come in there because, well, they were sort of hard to get. You had to buy specialist sets before, and you can now get them in this set as well. The first build of the flagship is the Abydos class Stronghold, as the name suggests, and yeah, this one comes with quite a lot of weapon loadouts as well. It's got 6 smaller rocket batteries coming with it, along with a heavy rocket battery on top, and as you can see from all of the different cranes put on there, this one acts as a repair ship, and I very much like this sort of design all the way here, because you can actually imagine one of your ships sort of floating in there, or one of your skimmer hovercraft floating in there, just to get all of the repair works done. So really a big fan of this design. And while it is a bit of a departure from what we've seen with the Turkish, of course, you can still see these sort of small minaret towers being spread out across the model. So all in all, I do like how it lines up. The artwork for it is amazing as well. And if you thought 6 regular rocket batteries rather and 1 heavy rocket battery isn't quite enough for me, you can make a variant with 2 more weapon slots, basically swap out the cranes, and I imagine that the bits here at the back also swap out to become these sort of floating generators, these skimmer ones. In addition, the front seems to swap out as well and house this massive heavy particle cannon, and if you do that you've built the Pharos class Dreadnought. This one is slightly slower in game and has slightly lower citadel because, well, all of that extra weight and firepower taxes the engine like nothing else, so you lose a bit out on that but you gain a lot more firepower. And a shot at the back makes me wonder just how these generators are swapped out, because it doesn't look like there's a brake line here, so maybe the cranes are just something that you put on top of these, which will make it slightly harder to magnetize, but I imagine it'll be easy enough to do if you're using blue tack and you want to try to have as many built as possible from this kit. And then the final build option that you can make out of it is actually a sort of carrier ship where the back bits here are swapped out to have these special types of SRS tokens that the Egyptians specifically have access to. This is the Tanis class control ship. And in case you were wondering, they sort of drop these Kepri SRS tokens, which are special SRS tokens which were recently added to the Orbat as well, that can only really do attack runs, but they do them very well. They're quite short range compared to regular SRS, so very much that Tanis control ship is still a very aggressive flagship as well to play with. Now those SRS tokens were of course a part of the plastic sprues, and those plastic sprues seem to build either one of these different build options that you can get for your Mass 2 ships. The first one is the Manjet class skimmer. This is the full option pizza, if you will, that comes with a rocket battery stacked here in the front. This big rocket battery, actually to the point that makes me wonder, like, should that be a different weapon class on its own, with a regular heavy rocket battery and 2 gun batteries. I'm pretty sure you can swap those out for rocket batteries as well, should you so desire. The other class that you can build is the Sabah class skimmer. It comes with a missile silo at the front, which is this very cool little ballista looking weapon that shoots off rockets towards the enemy, which is a different weapon profile altogether, but I personally like this variant best look-wise. The third build option is the Sobek class skimmer, which comes with the standard heavy rocket battery and then 2 gun batteries at the back. I imagine that you can swap those weapons out as well. But this is actually a landing vessel, and you can see that it sort of has this gate hidden in between these 2 forward points with sort of a staircase going down. So this is where all of your angry Egyptian soldiers will march out and try to conquer land. And then the fourth and final variant for the larger Mass 2 ships is the Mesektet class skimmer. This one comes with 3 smaller weapon batteries, can be either gun batteries or rocket batteries I suppose, but it also comes with a heavy torpedo salvo which is mounted here in the front nose. It's a bit of a shame that this preview picture doesn't allow you to see the torpedo tubes, because I'm quite curious to see what those look like as well. Now, some people may not know this, but if you go to the business-to-business site of Warcradle, you can often see quite a few more shots of these models, which we can see here, which give you a better view of the back end of them as well. So this is the Manjet, this is the Mesektet class at the back. It sort of all looks the same, so there's not really that much of a difference, and you can sometimes see some of the more elaborate front ends being portrayed here, but all in all there's not that much going on in the back of these ships. They are all forward-facing weapons of destruction. And then finally, there are 2 options that you can make for the Mass 1 skimmers. The first one is the Hashashkin class skimmer, which is the lighter armed variant, but that is to be taken with a grain of salt because you still get 2 gun systems, either gun battery, but I think they can be changed for rocket batteries as well, and a broadside to go along with it. That is a light broadside though, not the full cruiser variant. That would be a bit insane, then we're talking Excalibur levels. However, if you want to make something with slightly more firepower, they'll cost 3 points per model more, but they come with a variant where you get torpedo tubes out of them, micro torpedoes in this case, and then you've got the Kopesh class skimmer. As the Orbat currently stand, this Kopesh class has a bit of extra firepower as well, because it's got the Gunrunner rule, while the previous version, the Hashashin, was slightly faster, but also gets Minesweeper, so quite a bit of extra utility there for your Sultanate force in general. And I do like it when these Mass 1s actually have different roles on the battlefield as well, other than just the amount of pew-pew that they bring to the table. All in all though, I really like the amount of value that this box brings, because if you started out with the Sultanate with a standard 1-player starter set, this one definitely is something that is worthwhile picking up, if only because you get easy access to some portals as well, which are very much needed to have that cool little Sultanate gameplay, and on top of that you just get 4 new sprues included in it along with the flagship. So yeah, I imagine that's actually a cost-efficient way to do it. Speaking of cost though, this set is classed as being £85 on that business-to-business website, so it is slightly more expensive than we have seen from the other Mass 4, well, 4 sprue boxes I should say, but yeah, I can imagine that's because there's quite a bit of resin in there. If the whole back part and the front part has to swap out, you're probably talking about a bit more production value for Warcradle than perhaps we've seen so far. I mean, don't get me wrong, things like the Alexeyev box, which is comparable, the Alexeyev aircraft didn't come with any extra build options that I could see, so it's pretty much a lot more resin that you're getting in this box compared to the other ones, I suppose. Speaking of big boxes, this is the second one that was released this month, which is the Scions of Jutland box, coming for the Imperium. The Ragnarok was the very first set that came out for the Scandinavians, and this pretty much completes the roster, because there's quite a lot of different build options that you can make now that they are getting their second type of plastic sprue, and also another big type of flagship to go along with it, and some extra specialized colossi, as you can see as well. First off, the big gunboats. The first one is the Valhalla class dreadnought, which comes with, well, 2 Sturmbringers in the front, so that's already quite a lot of extra firepower to go along with it. 2 heavy Volt gun batteries, and then 1 single shock rocket battery. If I'm not mistaken, you can actually upgrade this as well to be another Volt gun battery, to have a trio of them, which is ideal for the heavy firepower role. Although, to be honest, the prospect of having 2 Sturmbringers in the front is probably enough firepower to actually scare your opponents quite shitless as well. The one thing you do have though is that it also has a small rocket battery at the top, and I'm not sure if that one is going to be hot swappable with a Volt gun battery, so we'll see how that evolves in the Orbat as well. Shooting isn't the only thing this ship does though, it also has these Valley Midget subs, which comes in this bay here at the back, where they can sort of float back in, which acts like a sort of special SRS token that mostly launches submerged torpedo attacks at the opponent. And that means this ship comes with this funky little backside where it's open at the back. If you look at the front view, you can clearly see that there's a large open area that they can float into, which looks kind of cool and a bit futuristic for your steampunk games. Also, there was a mention of the Sheldon class dreadnought as well, which seems to just swap out the rocket battery for this scanner, the Freya array at the top. But this one's not mentioned in the Orbat yet, so I'm not sure if this is a named variant of that flagship or the one that is personally sort of commodored by the Witch of Jutland herself. It might be. We'll have to wait and see until that gets updated as well. And then the third flagship build is the model that probably shocked a lot of people, which is the Asgard class dreadnought. I personally love it, the idea of just having a helipad ship that launches all of these Valkyrie rotors that we'll see a bit closer detail as well in a bit, is that something that I absolutely love. However, there has to be something said for the comparison with the preview art that there used to be. The problem with concept art is that if you don't follow it, that it can quite shock a lot of people. I know there were a lot of people looking forward to this one because it had a cool design, and somebody said like it looks like a double-bladed axe in the preview as well, which is all true. But when it turns out that the final design is something completely different, I suppose it can leave some people a bit disappointed as well. And looking at this concept art again, it doesn't mean that this ship cannot be released at some point, but it just might not be in the Scions of Jutland box. There might be another one for the Scandinavians that's coming out, because we mustn't forget that this is a specific one for mercenaries. And I'm looking at this, I'm seeing like a back part that looks more like the Ragnarok, is more in line with that. This one comes with four Vierling autocannon, including a Freya array at the top, and a deck that looks a lot like the old ski ramp that we saw on the previous one that has also been swapped out when the Conrad was redesigned. So that might be a reason why this one was just turned aside completely and became something completely different. In addition, if you wanted to release this one, I'm guessing it would have to come with a Prussian support sprue to make all of these different builds, so never say never. I mean, there's still an option for a resin build, I imagine, if people really like this one. The only thing we definitely know is that it will not be named the Asgard when it does. And this new variant of the Asgard definitely still needs some rules to go along with it, because, what will it do? Will it transport one of your existing units, like the Alexeyev? Will it function a bit more like the Frontier ship we've seen with the Union, where you actually have these guys flying off? There is a fourth platform there as well, so we're not quite sure what to do. All I know is I would not be gluing these ships down if I got this box. I would probably think about how to magnetize the flight stem, because there's some handy little bits that people often forget that you can place on top of your flight stem that form this extra disc as well, and that one is way easier to glue a magnet on. I'll try and do that when I next have a chance on my channel. Because this is the Valkyrie class Hunt rotor in detail. I know from the preview of the sprues that these Sturmklaue can actually be removed. This whole sort of shape here can be swapped out for something that has rocket batteries on there as well. So you can either opt for a very aggressive close range version, or you can add a bit of a longer range variant with rocket batteries. Currently in the Orbat they also come equipped with Vierling auto cannons aimed at the front, but from the look of this looks more like a Rüdiger to me, so I wouldn't be surprised if that little thing got tweaked as well. Despite the new flagship, there are of course new plastics as well, and the first one is one that we've seen before, which is the Scandinavian frontline squadron, and there's three build options that you can make out of that one. The first one being the Odin class Reaver. It's mostly this middle bit that you swap out with these kits, and if you take one with a heavy volt gun battery, it's the Odin. If you glue two middle bits, which is also an option in the middle, you get the Jotun class, which is the heaviest class that you can build out of out of these different variants. And then there is the Gungnir class, which is with the small little weapon in there as well. I do have to remind people that there is actually a mystery part still in that frontline box that has nothing at all in the middle for a very short and snubby snout. But that just doesn't show up in the Orbat, so maybe it's worth asking again what's up with those little parts. And apart from the frontline squadrons for the Scandinavians, we get a completely new plastic that also has the Valkyrie on it as well, of course. But for the Mass 2 options, there are a ton of different build options. The first one is the Angerboda class raider. Again, not seen yet in the actual Orbat, but if you go to the business to business website, you can actually see it better from the back compared to the blog post, and this one definitely is the Valley Midget sub launcher that uses that special type of SRS token. The one that I find personally the weirdest one is the Balder class raider that comes with a Freya array at the front, and when we're looking at the back it actually houses a heavy rocket battery there on a heavy slot as well. So it has a bit of backwards firing potential. I imagine that's 270 degrees once we finally see the Orbat option as well. A third option is the Gefjon class raider, and if I'm not mistaken that was one of the mandatory ones that you had to build if you were building a Scions of Jutland box, which comes with this thing that has nothing in the back, so I'm quite curious to see what that actually does. Perhaps that is again one of those landing vessels coming to the Imperium this time around, because that was still a missing thing in their Orbat altogether. There were no landing vessels in the Imperium, and this might fill that role. I'm just guessing though. If you've got your own guess, make sure you put it in the comments section below. I'd love to hear it. The fourth option would be the Heimdall class raider, I should say. The Heimdall seems to come with this sort of satellite dish that slots in at a heavy slot. So I'm curious to see what that does. Maybe one of those hydrophone relays that we've been seeing a lot of in the new Orbats. Although so far, most of the ships that we've seen with the hydrophone relay are ones that have smaller radar dishes. Maybe this one has the infrasound detector, which is one that has extended range still and works within 10-inch range as well to take away the obscured rule from opposing ships. If you take the Heimdall class and you swap out that rear radar dish and you replace it with a shroud generator, you get the Loki class raider. The Loki class has also been recently updated to have something that works slightly similar to a mirage generator, allowing it to sort of teleport up to 5 inches during the special operations step. So it really is the god of trickery right now. And then finally the last one, the Thor class raider, is one that's got everyone stumped because it comes with this wing-like structure at the top. Not exactly sure what it does, but it does seem to have some coils, electro coils around it. Maybe it's something that makes it shoot like a template weapon or something. We don't have that in the Imperium yet. Perhaps it's something that assists with ramming, who knows. But what we do know is that it's probably a bit of an aggressive ship because it comes with a built-in fury generator at the back, so this will probably be quite an efficient assault machine as well, because, yeah, as we know, that's pretty much what the Scandinavians are best at. It's not just 6 build options for your Mass 2s and the Valkyries. That sprue also comes packed with a small little escort token, which again is the generic escort token that can be used in both your normal Prussian forces and the Scandinavian ones as well, so they sort of act as a double one. And then lore-wise, a joint venture of both the Scandinavians and the Prussians was the design of the Fenrir class raider, the Hunter submarine, that they now get as well. So definitely quite a lot of ships on that one sprue. It is one Mass 1, one submarine Mass 1, a flying Mass 1, and then a Mass 2 and escort tokens. And then finally, the last thing that comes into that Scions of Jutland box is the new sort of Colossus available to the Imperium, the Einherjar class, Vitruvian Colossus. It looks to be a plastic sort of Colossus that we already know, the Hochmeister and the Metzger, but it combines now with a couple of extra resin pieces to give it that more Viking appearance, with also a nice big axe to go along with it, a Viking helmet, and then this central shield generator as well, along with the Scandinavian symbol on both the shoulders and the legs as well. And for your viewing pleasure, the Business to Business website also has a shot from the back of the model where we can clearly see that design here on the other shoulder as well. There's no designs though on the leg plates, they are quite bare compared to what the Imperium one has, because it has sort of a half Imperial cross on there as well. And then the final release that we see this month is for the Union. They get access to their Vanguard squadrons through a separate box as well. Last month saw the release of the Independence Battle Fleet set, and there was one plastic sprue in there as well of this Vanguard sprue. Now the problem with it was that you only get one submarine and one Valiant destroyer per sprue, so you're sort of left, or you were left I should say, with a unit that was technically not legal to field. But the great thing about having a rule system, a living rule system like Dystopian Wars, is that you can actually swap out the rules and accommodate for this, which is exactly what Warcradle has done. But you won't have to wait very long. If you want to field larger units of the submarines and even more John Henry robots, you now can. I actually have received my pre-order, or my preview copy I should say, of this Independence Battlefleet set, so I will be getting my hands on this sprue as well. So if you're looking forward to see what you can do with it, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for that next video, because that really is an extremely posable kit, the John Henry robot. You can actually have it in multiple poses with double hammers flying, a giant two-handed hammers as well. You can go for a full Superman flying kind of pose. It's quite impressive, and from what I've been told, you can actually swap around the pelvic area as well, so that the actual support flight stem is not exactly poking out of its John Henry. Those were all the pre-orders that you could make in September, and that's the end of the video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!